This episode is brought to you by Burn, the fitness company behind the Today Show approved Burn board. If I'm being honest, working out can be a real chore, especially as a new dad in desperate need of sleep and cardio. Burn is founded by NEPA native Jimmy T. Martin, and his Burn board offers a low-impact core and cardio experience unlike anything I've done before. They have hundreds of on-demand workouts that are great for beginners, seasoned athletes, and out-of-shape podcast hosts who love supporting small businesses. My wife and I use it pretty frequently throughout the week, and it's honestly a great way to burn a ton of calories without burning a ton of cash. Not to mention, it's a great tool for skiers, runners, wrestlers, and hockey players. Jimmy is offering all On The Stacks listeners 15% off when they use the code STACKS15. Visit theburn.com today to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15 at checkout. Again, that's theburn, THEBRRN.com to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15. It's time to get on board today with Burn. This episode is brought to you by Blue Door Financial. Blue Door Financial will help you save money and reduce taxes to live a fuller financial life. To learn more, visit Blue Door Financial online at BLUdoorfinancial.com. That's BLUdoorfinancial.com.
Anything that could fit in my van was coming with me. So I packed some clothes. The picture that you saw has a little area in the back of the van where I would sleep at night. I had my music. I had my guitar that I can play at night. And literally a 24 pack of water and a huge gigantic bag of trail mix that I got at Sam's Club. And like that, and I had a couple $100 to my name, and I just said, I'll figure it out. I'm just gonna go. And I had no plan other than to drive west.
Oh yeah, whoa, look, they can never keep me down, I'm going. And if I ever fail, just know I'll go again. I never quit, cause I know that every loss may lead to another win. I'm going up.
Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr. This is the On The Stacks podcast. What's up, podcast? Episode 118 of the On The Stacks podcast here in the Blue Door studio. Dave Yeager, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up, Bill?
Hey, man, I'm super pumped to have you in. I feel like this episode was like a real long time in the making.
It has been.
You and I kind of go back years. It's a crazy story. Shout out to Cody Gorell, by the way, for introducing us.
That's right. That's my nephew.
Yeah. But man, you've had quite the journey throughout your life and career, coast to coast, back and forth a couple times.
Yes.
And now you're back, officially back.
Yes.
In NEPA.
A bit exhausted, but I'm back.
I'm like out of breath. Like I'm out of breath already. We just got started.
Let's do it.
But yeah, no. So I want to, obviously I want to, have you tell your story and kind of how you got where you're at and doing what you're doing. And you're super involved in the music industry. You're innovating in a really cool way. And I think, I know a little bit about your story, but, I obviously I'm going to hear it again and everyone else is going to hear it probably for the first time. But yeah, so where does the Dave Yeager story begin?
Oh, man. How far back do you want me to go here?
What day were you born?
January 13th. But, look, I've had a passion for music since I was little. I actually started playing piano in my church choir. I don't even know what the age that was, but that was kind of my first stint in music and singing all the way through high school. And, I just always loved music. When I actually went to school for my degree, it was actually in commercial advertising. This was pre-Mad Men, pre-John Hamm. That was my original goal, was to get into that because I love creativity. And I grew up on Weird Al Yankovic and I just had a very expansive mind, a creative mind. And shortly through school, I just really pursued music. I had the opportunity to have my own radio show on the college campus. It was an underground hip hop show where I actually learned to cut my chops spinning and scratching, and had my partner at the time really kind of show me the ropes. And from there, the rest was history.
So you started DJing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Where did that lead you?
Oh boy. So, I DJ'd all the way through college, mostly fraternity parties, formals. It spun off to weddings. I did kid parties. It was a way to pay the bills. But I also just had a really strong passion for just music in general. It expanded my mind. I built up quite a collection. I was constantly music shopping. I had probably about a 10,000 plus CD collection, along with tapes at the time. But
this is a serious music collection.
Yeah, and a ton of vinyl, which I still have a lot to this day. But it just really fueled my passion. It really kind of allowed me to just study it. I after I got my first degree in communications from IUP and DJ'd, full time after that for a while. I just knew I wanted more. I knew I wanted to just keep learning, keep growing. I'm kind of a serial learner in that way, and I kind of felt I hit my ceiling in a lot of ways when it came to DJing. And so I ended up going back to school down in Florida at a school called Full Sail University. They're one of the biggest music and recording schools in the country. And I kind of needed a reset in a lot of ways. I was exhausted from school, exhausted from working a full-time job, DJing 7 nights a week. And I just wanted to get away by myself and put a focus towards recording engineering. And so I moved myself down to Florida and enrolled in the school, which was a year program, and studied my ass off, and came out of there with a recording engineering degree and a lot more education behind producing music.
So what was your plan? Like, so you want to go for recording engineer? Like, what exactly would you do with that degree? Like, what did you have a plan?
No, I just knew I loved it. I knew that was my calling in a lot of ways. I knew I wanted to be in a recording studio. Even the school that I was at, Full Sail, our classes ran 24/7. So I had classes at 2 a.m, at 5 a.m. It could be at any time, on any day of the week, because that's kind of really the way the recording industry is. You can do a 24-hour session in a studio in no time. I did that plenty of times during my days, but I didn't have any connections. I just knew that I wanted to be around music, and the only way to kind of get to that goal was to take baby steps. And getting that degree and actually understanding just music and the inner workings of it, and just the external and outboard gear that all goes into producing a good record was that next step.
So you were like producing music. That's what you were doing?
Working alongside producers. I mean, I think producing is its own craft in itself. The producer is really like a project manager of a track. They bring in, whether it's the musicians, whether it's the session musicians, I've spent days when I was in Nashville, alongside the producer and the guitar tech on just finding that right guitar sound that they want to add to a track. It's a science behind it. For me, it was the guy that worked the board. So I'd be the one that was actually doing the mixing.
Like, I'm over here pushing all these buttons,
exactly.
trying to make you and me sound good over here, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so this is what you're doing.
Yes, I was the man behind the board. I love working on analog boards. SSL and Neve are probably the two best ones that out there from an analog perspective. And those were my babies. Just standing at one of those boards with 100 plus channels. There's nothing like it.
Sounds complicated.
If you know one, you know them all. That's the science behind it.
Okay.
So it's not as complicated as you think.
Okay.
But you do have to have an ear for it. That's for sure.
On the Stacks will be back in a flash after a word from our sponsor.
Hi, it's Patrick Doyle, and welcome to Access Anzalone. At our office, our attorneys are vested in the community that we live in. And we think that's something that you should consider when you're selecting your personal injury attorney in your personal injury law firm. Our attorneys serve on the boards of the Kirby Center and Unico, Earth Conservancy, Wyoming Valley Drug and Alcohol Services, and Northeast Site Services. This community matters to us, and it makes your case so much more important to us. Oftentimes, our clients are tempted to hire a big city law firm, to go hire a lawyer from out of the area. And when you do that, ask yourselves, are those lawyers familiar with our roads and our highways and our streets? Are they familiar with the way our governments run and the way healthcare is provided in the Wyoming Valley? And even more importantly, ask yourself whether the outside attorney from the big city has a vested interest in this community. At the Anzalone Law Offices, we do, and we ask that you consider that before making your decision on who to hire.
And now we're back on the Stacks.
All right, so you get this degree, and then what did you do? What did you do next?
Oh, boy. So I got that degree, and I just started applying for jobs. I just wanted to get an internship somewhere. I'm confident in myself from my work ethic perspective that if anybody gives me a shot, I'll prove my worth. Started interviewing, started applying, sending my resume wherever I possibly could. I kind of knew my next destination was Nashville. At this time, this was in the early 2000s, where I really had 3 choices, maybe 4 if you include Atlanta. But Los Angeles, Nashville, or New York were pretty much my destinations. I knew I didn't want New York. I knew my end goal was going to be LA, but I've always wanted to take a shot at Nashville first. And one of the recording studios there, which was the 3rd biggest in Nashville, just a beautiful facility, I kept trying to apply it and trying to get a job at. I knew they had a pretty solid internship program, and I kept sending my resume. I kept calling. I kept emailing. Probably even other avenues as well, and pretty much to no response. And so one day, probably early evening, I just said, I'm just going to go there. And so I threw some clothes in my van and threw my resume in, and I drove 12 hours overnight to Nashville from Orlando.
Just on a whim.
Just on a whim. And I pulled into their parking lot right when they were opening at 8 a.m. And I just so happened to meet the office manager who kind of ran the whole studio. And timing was everything. They had just had an opening. Somebody else resigned as an entry level. It was an intern assistant engineer. And he asked me to stick around for one more day to meet the owner. I slept in my van that night, came in and met the owner, and they made me the offer that afternoon to come on board. And so I drove right back to Orlando, packed up my belongings. Within the week, I was back in Nashville, pretty much sleeping at the studio until I had enough money to kind of get my own apartment, and worked there for the next year and worked on some really amazing projects.
So wait, so you got the job there. You drove them right back to Florida, packed up all your stuff.
Yeah.
And then drove right back to Nashville with nowhere to you had no apartment,
nothing. I was hungry. When you're hungry, you do crazy things, and I just, that was my shot. I had that opportunity. I didn't want to mess it up, and I did whatever it took to make sure nothing fell through.
So you literally slept in the studio?
I did sleep in the studio.
Would they have a nice couch like mine, or?
No. There was actually some ISO booths, and I was only short-lived there. Actually, some of there was a couple other engineers within doing internships as well, and some of them were there for months on end. They were sleeping in ISO booths. These small little ISO booths were they had to vacate every day when we had clients come in, and then put all their belongings back at the end of the day where they would actually go and sleep. So I did that for a little while, and then I got a second job to afford my own place.
So wait, did your bosses know that you were sleeping there?
Yeah.
Was that allowed?
They encouraged it.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
They encouraged
okay.
it.
All right.
Yes.
But it's still extreme, but in a good way though. Just because like you said, it shows how hungry you were.
It shows how hungry you are, and I think it kind of goes back to my example with school and the 24/7. I think there's this notion within music, if you're going to be a recording engineer or work in a studio, it's crazy hours, it's nonstop. You just do what you got to do, and frankly, that's all I knew. That was my first real stint into the industry, working at a studio. So I didn't know any different, but it crafted me, in my opinion.
So what did you work on when you were there?
A lot of it was just, taking care of the studio. We obviously had our own time when there weren't clients to just go in and learn ourselves and produce our own music and or record. We brought in our own band sometimes. I got to work with, the studio itself, had a lot of artists coming in more focused around Christian music. I worked with Michael W. Smith quite a bit. I worked with the Judge, who were really good friends with the owners. Kirk Whalum, who's an amazing jazz artist and producer, and several others. A lot of session musicians. There was a great Canadian band called Down Here that I worked with and became friends with during the time. That was probably one of the biggest albums that I worked on down there. But it was just the overall experience. It was just I learned a lot, and it was so much fun.
How long did you work there for?
I was probably there almost a year. Yeah, almost a year. And I think hoping that the studio was eventually going to bring on another engineer. I think at that time, I guess it was probably 2003, 2004, where the industry was kind of starting to get disrupted with digital music and software like Pro Tools and Ableton and several others, where it was kind of taking over. So the days of the analog boards were kind of going away. It was harder to book these studios. They were very expensive, and so studios really didn't know what to do. They didn't really know what couldn't afford to bring on any other help. So I kind of hit my limit there. I looked around in Nashville for other opportunities, and at some point I just said, you know what, it's time for me to make my way out west. And so I decided to give California a shot.
Yeah. So I know you said before you mentioned that LA was you knew it was going to be your ultimate destination.
Yep.
Why? How did you know that? What was it about LA that you said I got to go there?
I mean, LA is just iconic when it comes to music. I think one of the biggest, several of the biggest recording studios are out there, like the Record Plant, which is one of the biggest ones. They have one in Miami as well, one in New York. But there's so many out there. I've never been before. I don't think I've really left the confines of the Valley until I went to Florida to school. I've never been anywhere. So it was just kind of this ambiguous goal and destination that I've always wanted to do and go to. And I just said, you know what? if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And I wanted to be able to craft my story around my journey out there.
All right. So what did you do? You pack up that van and just trekked it out there?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I did again.
It's a common theme here.
Common theme. Yeah. Got to have tenacity, I guess, to make it in this industry.
And you sent me that picture, by the way. So for everyone listening, maybe we can throw it up on the screen or something at some point here. But yeah, so you sent me this picture of the back of the van, like with the hatch open.
Yep.
And like it looked like there was like clothes, right? Like tell me about this van.
So I had a Dodge Caravan, and I had it primarily because I would use that to cart all my equipment around everywhere as I was doing DJ gigs, etc. I still had this van. It's still my number one vehicle to this day. It just was filled with so many stories and just charisma. And I didn't have many items that much of my life at that point. So anything that could fit in my van was coming with me. So I packed some clothes. The picture that you saw has a little area in the back of the van where I would sleep at night. I had my music. I had my guitar that I can play at night, and literally a 24 pack of water and a huge gigantic bag of trail mix that I got at Sam's Club, and like that. And I had a couple $100 to my name, and I just said, I'll figure it out. I'm just going to go. And I had no plan other than to drive west, and I did. And so I drove west by myself, had the time of my life, just kind of camping out, sleeping on top of the car, hiking the Grand Canyon for a couple days, and just having fun throughout the country and seeing a lot of it that I've never seen or heard about before. And then the last day came in the middle of July, coming through Vegas to LA.
On the final stretch.
My last day, all giddy and excited, coming through Death Valley in 127-degree temperature, and my radiator blows. And I get out to fix it, and there's fluid all over the car, all over the ground. And obviously I called AAA. And first of all, I broke down right in front of I guess they call it the world's biggest thermometer in Baker, California, in Death Valley. The irony, like staring up at 127 degrees on the thermometer. And had it towed to a garage where this guy literally makes millions and millions of dollars a year from people breaking down just like me.
Just like you.
Yes.
What a racket.
Yes, what a racket. And my car, it took 5 days for him to even take a look at my car and fix it. And so I basically, with, again, no money, I just puttered around the town during the day and slept in my car at the garage at night until they had the time to fix it. And finally got it fixed. Took me for all the cash that I had, and made my last drive out to Los Angeles. And, finally, that was my final destination, and built myself up from there.
All right, so you landed in L.A.
Yep.
Parked the van.
Yep.
Where did you go? Where's the first place you went?
Well, first I'll say is my car broke down again when I got there.
Oh, no.
I remember to this day, I was if anybody's been to LA, I was on the 10 freeway downtown on a Friday in traffic, and my car overheats and breaks down right on the freeway. I think it was my first night in Los Angeles. I just started crying. I had the worst anxiety attack, and I just broke down in tears. But, for the first almost 6 weeks, I lived out of that van. I, at this point, had nothing. I had a couple bucks to my name. My parents tried to help me out for a little bit too, to get me a little further, but I really wanted to make it on my own. I didn't want to be dependent on anybody. This was my decision. And so, I primarily, parked in a Edwards movie theater lot. And that's where I parked my van. That's where I slept. I would sneak into the movie theater when people were getting let out. I had a great way of doing it. You just pretend you're on your cell phone. You walk right in. Nobody bothers you. And I would find a used drink cup and a used popcorn cup. And at that time, they had free refills. So I would take them up to the counter and get refills of popcorn and soda and go watch a movie. And that was my lunch or dinner. And then I found a Holiday Inn and a few other hotels that I would sneak in the morning and eat their continental breakfast. And jump in their pool to kind of clean off. And that's kind of what I did. I did that. And during the day, I was at the local libraries because I didn't even have a computer or anything like that. I don't even know if laptops were a thing then. And so I would go to the libraries and job hunt and send out emails and just try to get my start. I didn't know one person in Los Angeles. And so it was, again, just a lot of pushing forward to try to make something happen with really no set goal other than to make it. That was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm like speechless.
Again, part of my story. It's what I know. I don't know anything different. For me, it humbled me in a lot of ways. It made me appreciate everything I have. And it made me also understand how far you can go with so little. And I feel like I'm a minimalist because of my experience.
Yeah, holy shit.
Yeah.
So you survived on popcorn,
Pretty much.
sodas,
Yep.
and Holiday Inn Continental.
Their cinnamon buns.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was your favorite?
The cinnamon buns, Holiday Inn cinnamon buns. I don't think they have them anymore, but
Highly recommend.
highly recommend. Whatever it took. Whatever it took to fill this gut of mine, I would eat.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So how long did it take you before you eventually got a job?
So I ended up landing a job. I started out in Los Angeles, in Hollywood. There's extra work. They call it extras. It's all the people that are in the backgrounds of all the film and TV scenes. A lot of people do extra work. A lot of aspiring actors, because it gets you on set, gets you to meet people. You sign up with an agency, and then you're calling in every day to find out who's looking for talent. And then if you're the right fit for them, they book you, and then you're on set. So that's pretty much like my first job, was getting set up as an extra. And you can set your own schedules. You can work as you want. It's a lot of work to get booked though as well. But it just got me kind of infused within Hollywood to see movie sets. I got on set for all kinds of different movies on most of the bigger production lots, as well as I also landed in my first internship with Universal Music Publishing, which was my first stint to music out there, which also opened doors. But that. But the extra work paid the bills, and it got me some pretty cool opportunities.
All right. So what were you in the background of?
Oh man,
what was your favorite?
Well, Arrested Development was probably one of my favorite ones. It was season 1, so really nobody knew what that show was or was going to be, and I was a security guard. I think it was in episode 2 of season 1. And it led to me being on, I think, a couple episodes. But I got to tase Job, which was Will Arnett's character, and I got to meet him and Jason Bateman and be in a couple scenes with them. Again in the background. Really
but you tased him.
I tased him.
But that's actually like a real part, though. I feel like
I feel like it was.
I mean, I've never seen the episode, but that's like
for those that are fans of Arrested Development, that's people have said, "Oh my God, you're the one that tased Job," and I never really was a huge fan of the show until actually people started clamoring about it. But I'm trying to think of other shows I was on. I actually auditioned for a couple roles actually that I landed. I got a small little role on Judging Amy, which was another role. I landed a commercial for Pets Finder, where I played this slob. I can't even describe it. I'm not going to do it justice. I wish I had it. I'd play it for you.
Okay.
But just all kinds of different sets. It's just being on a production lot and watching the creativity and the magic happen. It's unreal. It's really unreal to watch, and just how much love and care and dedication it goes into just like shooting a scene that like really nobody would appreciate the background, the surroundings. Just seeing the intricacies of what goes into filmmaking it's remarkable. We had a firsthand experience at that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right, so you did that, and then were you simultaneously? You said Universal Music Group. Were you simultaneously doing that, or did that come after?
It came around the same time. I was, the internship, it was an internship with their publishing group. So, it was a couple days a week here and there. So I was able to schedule my extra work around that.
So, okay. So you're dipping your toes now into some music stuff, into the music scene in LA.
Yep.
What happens next?
What happens next is I needed an actual job. And so I ended up interviewing for a role for Entertainment Tonight. It wasn't music related, but at this time I was hungry. I needed to really kind of establish myself a little bit more and have a steady income coming in. And I interviewed for this role as a production coordinator for Entertainment Tonight, and I landed the job. And that pretty much was it was an amazing experience. I was surrounded by some very talented people. I was, Entertainment Tonight is filmed on the Paramount Studios lot, which is iconic. So I was there every single day. My job was from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I was the one that was pretty much, sifting through all the news sites, trying to find what took place overnight that we can actually talk about and actually create pieces for on ET that would air later that night. So anything in the pop news world, anything around award ceremonies or award shows. So I was, basically planning, the morning meetings for all the executives. So I learned a lot from just how a show is produced, and everything that goes into it. And, I was just kind of a production assistant, but, again, being me and not knowing how to slow down and stop, I I wanted to climb that ladder relatively quickly. And so I slept in the booth there many times on just doing other projects, on helping people out. And I worked my way up pretty quickly to start producing for ET on MTV. So I was actually writing my own pieces, editing my own pieces. I ended up getting to go out with to a lot of different events with my own film crew. I went to some premieres where I sit there on the line interviewing celebrities, and got to go to Courtney Love's trial and sit in on that trial. But the biggest thing for me was going to Michael Jackson's trial. I got to go and sit up in Santa Maria. Entertainment Tonight sent me up there to stay, and I got to go in and sit in the courtroom and watch the Michael Jackson trial.
Wow,
it was incredible.
Did you meet him, or like?
He the one day we kind of bumped into one another as he was walking to the courtroom, and he said hello to me, and I almost passed out like a 7-year-old girl because it's Michael Jackson.
Yeah,
and everybody should feel that way. So it was just a very, very surreal experience.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So how long did you do this? How long did you work there for?
Yeah, I was there for about 2 years. Just really, really having fun. But I just felt a void. I felt a void with music. I really wanted to get back into music. That's what I came out there for. I probably could have stayed there and probably done really well for myself. But, for me, the drive is about, having impact and feeling fulfilled. And I just wasn't there. And along with other reasons. But so I decided to basically take the leap again. And I didn't have anything at the time. I decided, you know what, the only way I'm going to really put the effort in that's needed is to basically starve again, and almost like to not have anything lined up. And so I left Entertainment Tonight and I started to kind of do some freelance work. I did some sound mixing and things for different shows, but my goal was to kind of work for a label or an emerging technology firm. And I had the opportunity at that time. I started as a contractor with Universal Music Group at a brand new department for them with e-commerce and mobile operations, kind of pretty much facilitating the whole digital supply chain, everything behind the scenes when it came to digital music, where it was going, setting metadata standards, designing the content management tools that are needed for everybody to house their content and to be able to monetize properly. So it's a very unsexy role.
Yeah, and what year is this, by the way?
2005.
Okay.
2005.
So there is no real social media. Or no, I'm sorry, Facebook I think probably just came along.
MySpace. Friendster.
Yeah.
I'm probably dating myself now, but
MySpace, yeah. Everybody had a MySpace.
Yes.
Yeah. Everybody was friends with Tom.
Everybody was friends with Tom. Absolutely.
That guy's still around.
I give the thumbs up. I'm sure he is somewhere. He's probably on an island somewhere.
With that same picture.
Probably. I hope so. Tom. That's how we know Tom.
What a guy.
But so I started contracting at Universal Music Group, and I loved my boss. Her name was Kim Beauchamp. She was one of the most supportive people. She's still very, very prominent in the music industry today. And what I love about her is, 2 months after starting to contract with Universal Music Group, I had some health issues, and it ended up basically I almost died on the operating table. I was in the hospital for probably 2 months, 3-4 surgeries, and I was out for that period of time. And it was a really, really hard part of my life, but she saved my spot for me. She, as a contractor, that means a lot. She could have easily, gone out to the agency and filled my spot. But she kept that for me. And so when I was finally better and I was able to return, and that eventually led me to a full-time job at Universal, where I was really facilitating most of the digital releases for Interscope and Geffen Records. So I was situated right with the record labels there in Santa Monica, fostered a lot of relationships over the next 8 years, and kind of really being at the forefront, working for the biggest label in the world with Universal on a global level, but also just meeting amazing people, working on some incredible projects, and it just really that's what I wanted. Like I finally kind of got it, even though I wasn't in the sexy marketing role that I wanted or anything like that. Fast forward to where I am now, like. It was everything. It allowed me to become a subject matter expert in digital music and digital production, digital distribution, and that's pretty much where we are now. So it was the right move. Yeah.
So what exactly did you do? Kind of break it down, because it kind of sounds a little complicated.
Can we keep it that way?
1,000 pictures, maybe. So you did some, like you said, unsexy work.
It was
a lot of
work
behind the scenes.
It was behind the scenes. It was all the setup. When it comes to distribution, digital music, there's a lot of platforms that have to talk to one another when you're calculating royalties. Assigning UPCs to every single product that goes out the door. We were focusing anything, pretty much any digital initiative that they were, that the labels had or they wanted to do, they would come through our department and we would kind of help facilitate. There's all these different codes that get assigned to tracks or to music for tracking purposes. And there's a lot of rules behind that. So you're working with the RIAA and multiple other music agencies that heed to their parameters. So we're able to track music on a global level. Like I remember, like for good examples, like Lady Gaga, for example. Like when I work on a Lady Gaga album, there's going to be thousands of assets that are attached to that album. There might be 100 different, mixes of Born This Way. So everyone has a different code. Everyone has different rights, different mixes, different credits. So it's just managing all of that. So times that by, millions, and you're trying to manage all of these different assets. And then assigning, at this time we were dealing a lot with physical retailers. There was Best Buy exclusives. There was Target exclusives. There was Walmart exclusives. Every one required different SKUs, different artwork. Like everything had to be piecemealed together and tracked, and then the delivery dates and like, if something, needed to be taken down and replaced, you had to take it down from different partners. And there's a lot of it's a lot of production work behind the scenes, again, not sexy, but it really kind of gets into the intricacies of like how music operates, everything downstream.
So this is like your real, like, first experience, like you're like in the trenches in the music industry.
Yep.
At this point.
Yep.
So like what was your goal like after this?
Well, I'll say like alongside Universal too, again, we're talking about my space, I started my own boutique management company. I think it fuels my passion for mentorship and leadership. And, on MySpace, the whole 4 songs on an artist profile was everything. And I actually discovered some artists that I just fell in love with at that time and connected with, and it started managing. And so that was kind of like my side gig.
So you were managing these artists?
Managing the artists, booking the artists, had a lot of, different showcases, touring, everything. And that kind of like, while I was doing the unsexy work at Universal, although it was great, I had the management stuff that kind of filled the void of like really working directly with artists, kind of that A&R component of like really finding these next artists that can hopefully develop and or get signed. So I kind of had the best of both worlds. I'm a serial worker too. I just work nonstop.
I see that.
That's what I love.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't really know what the next step was going to be. I kind of, felt like I kind of hit my ceiling at Universal in a lot of ways. I didn't really know where I can grow. Unfortunately, like a lot of it was based on seniority as well. So, there was others, more senior people above me that would probably get promoted before I would. And, but I had fostered a lot of relationships within Music Universal, primarily within Interscope, having worked with most teams. And at that time, around, probably my 7th year in, I watched Beats by Dr. Dre kind of get started in the closet next to me. I saw, my friend sent out the first pair of headphones to LeBron James, and then I just watched it kind of grow over time, over the next year or two. And I got asked in 2012 to, hey, would you be interested in coming over to start this new Jimmy Iovine project alongside Beats by Dr. Dre? It's unnamed. We can't really tell you much about it, but would you be interested? And I didn't need to hear much more. I was all in. If it was attached to Jimmy, if it was attached to Beats by Dre and all the success that had, and I was all in. And so I jumped ship from Universal and I went over to what became known as Beats Music.
Okay, so all right, so let's back up. So we got to go back to this closet.
Okay.
All right, so what was going on in the closet over there?
Well, I mean, there wasn't any office space.
So was this was like headphones, like we have them here right now, right? This is like your original OG.
Yes.
Beats by Dre.
Those are my studio.
Slightly worn.
Yes, just a tad.
Slightly worn.
Still wear them every day.
Okay, so but this project that they were doing over here, was it the start of?
So Beats by Dre was already started.
Okay.
So Beats by Dre, like that started like literally on my floor. That's where the closet I'm talking about is pretty much where they housed like the first couple pairs of Beats by Dre headphones. And they pretty much built that brand with almost like zero marketing dollars. Like their whole goal, I don't know if you remember back then, but like was to put these headphones on every celebrity they possibly
Yeah, I remember.
could.
Yeah.
That was their marketing strategy, and it worked. I mean, it worked flawlessly. So I learned a lot just watching that experience. But having some of my good friends and colleagues to this day, like were the first people that who worked alongside Jimmy and his initiatives. That's what they did. They send these out to different celebrities.
Okay, so this was already going on when you got involved with this other project.
With the sister project of Beats Music, and it had no name. Very ambiguous. I just kind of knew it was around music and most likely going to be some sort of platform. but it hadn't fully developed yet. It was completely under wraps. And literally I worked probably for my first year with it not having a name. We called it Project Daisy because that was our CEO's dog.
Project Daisy.
Project Daisy.
So like you had like, did you not know what it was going to become? Or like, was this a secret to you, or was it like just no one knew what it was going to?
I mean, we very quickly we gathered it because we built it. Like the team that I started working with, we all kind of got hired at the same time, and they've really hired amazing team of curators and music professionals from all over the country. A lot of them moved to Los Angeles, so we all kind of started at the same time on this project. And in Los Angeles, there was maybe a dozen of us in a room, just kind of like brainstorming and wireframing and building and developing. And, early on, we knew that it was going to be a streaming service. We just knew that we wanted it to be different. We really wanted it to be sleek and sexy, and it was obviously going to be attached to the Beats by Dr. Dre, brand. And so over time, as we started developing it, Dr. Dre was getting involved. Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails became the chief creative officer. We ended up coming up with the name of they ended up naming it Beats Music. And we had a full team up in San Francisco that was more on the tech and development side, and I just watched the company just grow and grow and grow while we were just bringing in a lot of fun. Jimmy and his network was fully funded, and over the next year and a half, 2 years, we just built it was the most fun of my career I've ever had in my life. I had full autonomy. My job was the director of content operations, so I pretty much oversaw the music catalog, and part of my job was to basically just grow it. Look at the catalog and find holes in it and grow it. So, I traveled extensively for my first year there, just meeting with any record label, any distributor, any stakeholder to kind of understand how they were feeling about the current options out there, streaming platforms, and where they kind of saw a disconnect. And B was really just try to do deals and get voids of our catalog in place. So, I had systems set up and internally to really just go after the content and grow the catalog. And I built my team for myself to, a good dozen people or not more. I started an internship program there where I fostered kids from all over the country and put them through a 12-week program. Most of them I hired on after the fact. And, it was so much fun watching, these kids grow through college and outside of college to where they're all, for the most part, just thriving within the industry or within, the tech space itself. And I'm still close to a lot of them. And that really kind of, again, fostered my passion for mentorship as well.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is so cool.
I loved it. The team I worked around, we're still all good friends to this day. We still do reunions every now and then where we meet up, we try to do it every year. And, what's nice about the music industry is it's a very close family. It's a very small industry where pretty much everybody, it's like 6 degrees of separation. Everybody kind of knows each other. And like the people that I started with on the ground floor, whether or not we worked with the same company or not, we all kind of grew together over the last 2 decades. And so a lot of my friends and colleagues are running labels now or, pretty high up in the industry or started their own management companies or whatever it may be. It's been fun just kind of growing alongside a lot of my peers that I really respect.
That's awesome. All right. So did you actually get to like meet and work with like the people like Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre and...
Yeah, I mean, I worked, I wouldn't say Jimmy Iovine and I were best friends or anything like that, but, I definitely worked very closely to Jimmy, understanding his vision. Some of his mantras I carry to this day. Dre is another one where, when I first met Dre, I was just highly intimidated because he's Dr. Dre and he's an icon to me, let alone how, what is he, 6'5"? I don't know. He's just completely jacked. So like standing next to him, he just towered over me. But he's also just this really, really quiet guy who's brilliant. And so, but I think you kind of get, I don't say you get used to it. Like it just becomes another part of your daily life. Trent Reznor, who was one, he was our chief creative officer at Beats Music. And obviously like he's Trent Reznor and he's got multiple bands along with other projects. But he was sitting in the room with us and he was just quiet, humble guy who really, really wanted to extrapolate from us, like how we wanted to build the service, how we can be better, how we can curate the service more. And he was always just thinking, like, I really saw the genius in him. And I just drew such a respect for Trent. Like, he, to this day, probably one of the greatest guys I ever had a chance to even just remotely work with.
That was super cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was amazing.
So like, what did you guys ultimately end up doing? Like, what did you build? Like, what was the outcome?
So we built Beats Music, which was, it was a music streaming service. It got a lot of hype from the beginning. We had a gamification part of the app called The Sentence, which was kind of like a Mad Libs for music, where you can plug in a couple fields and like it would spit you out a playlist. And we kind of got creative, but the brand itself was just amazing. And we weren't really around that long. We were probably really like a live service for probably less than a year before we actually ended up getting acquired by Apple at that time. So Apple was kind of really seeking a music streaming solution. They saw that that's where the trend was going, and I think rather than starting from scratch, and I also think that Apple was kind of at that time losing some of its cool factor and luster, and they were trying to find some way to bring it back. And at least that's kind of the chatter that happens within the industry. That's what everybody says. But so they ended up acquiring the company for, I think it was their biggest acquisition to date of $3.2 billion. And over the next year, we kind of folded into the Apple ecosystem.
That is like unbelievable that you were actually part of that.
It was fun. I was blessed enough to have been in some of those meetings, leading up to the acquisition, because I was running my own department, kind of leading the catalog and initiatives, and so they really want to understand my processes. And so, luckily, I didn't know the people in the room. I probably would have shit my pants, but because they kind of grilled me pretty hard. But at the end,
were
of the
these
day,
just high up execs?
They're high up execs at Apple.
Okay.
High up execs at Apple, and very, very intimidating, successful people. And I was one of, not in every meeting, but like in the tail end of the meetings where they really want to understand our workflows. I was brought in, and I was one of a handful of people that had that experience, and it was an experience that I'll never forget.
So like, did you know that it was getting acquired? Like, were you part of like that transition? Like, how did the news like come along to you and your team? Like,
it's a great question. there was a lot of chatter for a couple of weeks, but people, most of the executives within Beats, pretty much just kept denying it. Because I don't think it was final yet. We actually found out. So there's an event, an annual event, actually just happened a few weeks ago in Nashville. It's called Music Biz, and it used to be hosted every year in Los Angeles. And so it just so happened that during Music Biz, they announced the acquisition. So literally none of us knew. Like, we all kind of had a feeling, but it was never finalized. And at Music Biz, they announced it. So all of us literally, to avoid being asked 1,000 questions about it, we literally had to cut our time short there. And we all just left immediately to not talk about it because we didn't know any of the semantics. We found out alongside everybody else.
Okay, yeah. So you couldn't even answer the questions, even if somebody asked.
Didn't know the future of what any of that held. We just found out alongside everybody else.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So you fly back to LA. You weren't driving this time, were you?
No.
Okay.
No.
Nope. All right. So what happens after this? So Apple acquires the company, and then do you go to work for Apple?
I go to work for Apple. I spent about 5 years at Apple. So, part of my job when I first came on board, was kind of doing double duty. So, there was a massive culture clash between a very institutional company like Apple, and then, at Beats Music, we lived and breathed music. Like, we were your creatives. We all obviously had great experience within the industry, but we like to be disruptive. And so there was a massive clash. I remember being in meetings where there was so much turmoil. I thought people were going to jump across the table at each other.
Really?
Yeah. And
wow.
There's a lot of churn over the next 2 years. A lot of my colleagues who just really, a lot of them were just, entrepreneurs and loved being in the startup world. And so a lot of them had jumped ship. So I saw a lot of attrition happen over the next couple of years. So my first job was to be a part of the development and launch of Apple Music, because they wanted to infuse a lot of our processes and just the whole mantra of Beats Music within Apple Music.
Yeah. So this becomes
Apple Music.
Apple Music.
It's kind of like the motor, I guess.
This is like the background of what became Apple Music. Mm-hmm. That's unbelievable. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Even the Apple Music Radio started out as Beats One Radio, and so there's a lot of elements of Beats in it. And so, my first year, I was actually, had a sunset Beats Music because there was a carryover period when that was kind of still running synonymously for a little bit. So I was kind of running that service almost by myself. I was able to find my entire team. They all, got new positions within Apple, and then working on Apple Music. And then I saw kind of a need from a business standpoint of like, okay, streaming is new to Apple. I know about royalties. I know about the data aspect of it all. And so I I pitched my own role as a global business analyst for Apple Music and kind of iTunes at the same time. And I pitched it to the executives, and they really felt the need for it. And so I carved out my own role, within my position alongside, my boss and, my superiors, just kind of really like help define what Apple Music was, understanding the metrics, the KPIs behind the service, running reports internally so we can understand what's kind of moving the needle on how we're, how customers are using the service, how they're interacting with it, what's working, what's not. But then also kind of being the outward facing, business conduit to all the stakeholders, like the record labels, the distributors, doing quarterly business reviews with them to understand, how their content is performing on the platform, et cetera. And so, it was a huge learning curve for me. I just not only understanding the culture of a new company, which I studied Steve Jobs in depth while getting my MBA, and just have had such a passion for Apple and everything Steve did. And, he was very instrumental to me as well. So just being at Apple was very surreal to me. And then just, kind of understanding the environment, understanding the culture, being disrupted from a company that, acquired a company that I just kind of helped build in a lot of ways. It was just a surreal experience over the next 5 years. And I was traveling nonstop. I was in Cupertino every week for probably 4 of those years, staying at different hotels and condos and Airbnbs, and because most of the team was up there. So it was a lot of travel back and forth, and it was fun at the same time. But I feel like over time I needed a break. I was going nonstop pretty much since I probably moved to Nashville at that point, if not maybe LA. But I was burnt out, and also burnt out from the corporate culture after 5 years of being there.
The corporate life.
Got
to you, huh?
Yeah, it got to me. Yeah, I needed a break in a lot of ways, and I still have a lot of colleagues over there. A lot of my staff is still over there doing very, very well, and so I love what they're doing. And it was definitely an amazing opportunity, and to work for a company like that, and to really see the inner workings of how they operate, and how everything is really top secret unless you're working on a project. And it was just a different culture.
It's just crazy to me. Like, this whole thing is just like, this is just.
Told you I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Geez, I'm out of breath again just from hearing it. No, but it's unbelievable. Like, where your career and your path and everything led, and you're part of Beats Music, Beats by Dre, gets acquired by Apple, and you're part of this whole freaking thing. Like, that's like, it's unbelievable.
I didn't know any different. It was fun. I guess that was the point where I kind of thought, okay, like, I finally made it after, I don't know, it was, I guess we got acquired. I started with Beats in 2012. We got acquired in 2014. So yeah, that was almost about my 10-year mark out in Los Angeles. So it took me quite a while to kind of feel somewhat established.
Feel like you made it.
Feel like I made it.
So at that point, you did. You felt like, this is it. Like, I made it. I made it here.
I think so because the autonomy again that I had especially at Beats, like, it was just a different culture. I mean, we were heavily backed financially, and Jimmy and his team, like, they really gave us a lot of leeway to build a product that we thought was going to be successful, and I love that. Like, we just had full autonomy and independence. We're very independent on how we built a lot of this, and we had just a great team. And I watched our team grow to probably 400 people over the time I was there before we got acquired. So,
and how many did you start with?
I don't know exactly, but the people that I worked on in LA, there was probably a dozen. And then I don't even know what it grew to.
So it went from a dozen to over 400.
Yeah, basically.
That's crazy.
And we just had the time of our life. It was such a fun experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts. So what did you do? So you just said, like, hey, like, I'm just, you just left the company, said, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm out.
Yeah. During that whole time we just talked about, I was pursuing my MBA as well. And it took me 6 years to get my MBA. I dropped out 3 times because of my job, because I was traveling extensively, and I just couldn't handle the workload along with working full time. And I was trying to save to buy a house. So I was waiting tables at night just to afford my first house. I had a goal of buying a house in LA by the time I was 40. That was always a weird goal of mine. And luckily I was able to accomplish it. But, I think 2018, I think it was the end of 2017, end of 2017, beginning of 2018, it was kind of the culmination of really 3 things. One being I graduated with my MBA after the 6 years. 2, I just lost my father to brain cancer, which was a very exhausting and emotional time, just watching him kind of decline over the last 2 years. And 3, my husband and I found out that we were finally approved to have children, to pursue surrogacy in South Africa, which is where my husband is from. So those 3 factors kind of really came into play of, okay, like this chapter needs to close and my next one needs to open. I needed some flexibility. We had spent 5 years trying to really start our family. We finally got that approval. I knew in 2018 I'd have to spend a lot of time in South Africa, and going through the motions and going through court proceedings and filling out paperwork and getting assessments. I just needed to step aside from my career for a minute and put my focus on my family. And luckily enough, I did. My husband and I, twin girls, were born on my birthday, January 13th, 2019. And so it was all worth it.
That's amazing.
At the end. And I decided to go on my own. And I did a lot of music consulting, which got me to be able to do it from wherever I could. I did a lot while I was in South Africa. And I did a lot of consulting with a lot of, investment firms overseas that really just want to understand the music landscape, understand, future and current trends, where it's going, where they should maybe invest. And so it kind of organically took off for me, where it kind of, it paid the bills and then some, but it really allowed me to kind of put my focus on my family.
Yeah. Wow. That's a wild story. A great story.
This is fun.
Yeah.
I can't complain.
So how did you meet your husband?
I met him on a gay dating app.
Okay.
Or gay sex app, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But
in LA,
in Los Angeles, yeah, up in Ventura, which is about a good hour and a half north of Los Angeles, just south of Santa Barbara. That's where he was living at the time. And it was December over Christmas break. We got out in LA. I don't know if it happens around here, but most companies in the tech world, at least, give you the whole week off for Christmas and New Year's.
We need to start doing it. I don't think that happens enough around here.
You don't do it here?
We should.
You should.
I'm giving on the stacks the week off.
You should.
Me, myself, and myself.
I vouch for that. You deserve it.
Yeah,
you deserve it.
Thank you. Yeah, pat myself on the back.
So just one day, I think it was December 28th. I remember that because we have that on our calendar. I just drove up to Santa Barbara for the day to sit by the beach and read a book. And I did that, and I just so happened to jump on the app and see if there was anybody around. And he popped up, and I said, "Hey, Ventura's on my way back to LA. If you want to stop and if you want to meet up for lunch." And we did, and we met up on the Ventura Pier, and had about a 3-hour conversation. And we just chatted for a very, very long time. And fast forward 18 months later, I proposed to him on that same pier. And we still have our bench out there. I didn't give him a ring or anything like that, but I actually I put a bench that's permanently placed on the Ventura Pier, and it has 3 plaques on it. It has the day we met, the day I proposed, and the day we got married on there now. So it's a very iconic and memorial place for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Arik.
Yeah. From South Africa.
Arik from South Africa.
That's wild. Sorry. So you spent some time there.
Yes.
Yeah. What was that like?
In South Africa?
Yeah.
He grew up in Cape Town, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous place. It's almost like California in a different country. And his parents are still there now. We're blessed enough to have had our girls born there, and we actually got married there in 2016 at a beautiful resort. And it's a stunning place. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to go back for years because of COVID. So we're really kind of dying to touch base with this family and for them to see the girls because they're now 3.5. So we're planning the fall of this year to finally make our way back there and give it a visit.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So 2 twin girls.
Twin girls.
Awesome.
Yeah. You're a new dad too, so you know how it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you got double the duty.
I've got double the duty.
You got
exactly.
you got double.
But it was hard for the first couple of years, but as most people say with twins it gets easier. Now I'm at a place where they can entertain themselves.
My wife's a twin.
That's right.
She's gonna love this.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. Well, she would know then.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm at that age of 3.5 where they can kind of play by themselves. I kind of have that break now where they entertain. They're best friends. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I have so much fun with my girls.
Yeah.
They're so much fun.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So the girls are born.
Yep.
And then where'd you move? They were born in South Africa.
Born in South Africa.
You moved back to LA?
So yeah. So we still had our place in Los Angeles, and we were in South Africa when they were born. So the girls were born a month early. And but after they were born, we stayed in South Africa for 6 weeks. And so we were kind of getting nervous with I forget what was happening around some government issues here or whatever, but we were afraid of getting, stuck there. So after 6 weeks, there's a lot of paperwork you have to do and and things you have to do with the court because these girls, they're technically, U.S. and South African citizens. I'm the only one in my family that doesn't have dual citizenship at the moment. But there was just a lot of work you had to do behind the scenes to actually exit the country with them. And so we did. And when we came back, it was a 40-hour door-to-door round trip with 13 pieces of luggage.
Oh, my God.
A stroller, the frame for the stroller, and then 2 6-week-old girls. So, aside from I think it was like a 34-hour flight back. And then, we landed in New York City in the dead of winter. I think it was early March or something like that. And the girls were just miserable. Then we had a 2.5-hour, 3-hour drive up. We came to see my family here in Pennsylvania first so everybody can meet the girls. And then we made our way to LA. But it was an exhausting 40-hour trip.
It sounds like it.
Yes.
Holy smokes.
But it was all worth it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. So then what was you're back now,
Yep.
moved fully back
in
NEPA. So all right. So you go back out to LA. And then what was the switch that you said, hey, you know what? I'm going to come back home to Northeast PA.
I think a big part of it was COVID. I guess what are we looking at now? This was 2019, going in, I guess that's around when COVID started, 2020. I was still doing kind of some consulting work. I started looking for, a full-time job. But I also had, a very burning desire to really bring this passion of mine, to light, which is what Showcase Daily was about. So I started kind of sketching that out and wireframing it and started talking to some folks. Me being a serial learner, I also went back and got my project management professional certification, which took a good 6 or 8 months to do, and studying, and then you have to take a final test to finally get the certification. So I did that, and unfortunately, after my dad passed, my mom was shortly diagnosed with the same exact brain tumor, and which was a big blow to my family. And at the same time, my mother-in-law 6 weeks later was diagnosed with a similar tumor. So it was just kind of we were kind of upended a little bit, and we're rethinking where we wanted to be. We were living in a 790 square foot house with 2 dogs and 2 girls, and we knew we wanted to grow. Whether it was to stay in LA and buy something bigger, or I think, this was during COVID of really trying to explore the country and see where else we might want to go, because everybody was starting to telecommute and things were opening up. But realistically, I mean, there was some things happening in my family where we decided to come back and take care of my mom. And so I stopped everything in my life and we drove cross country in the height of COVID.
By the way, you sent me another photo. Dave sent me another photo of you and your husband, the kids, and I think the dogs are in there.
The dogs are in there.
Oh my God.
So that actually became our Christmas card. The one
I love
year.
it. I absolutely
2020.
It's like the greatest photo ever.
People loved it. So the back story of that is, well, I'll start with saying, so we ended up driving cross country in another van, not the same Dodge
Not the
Caravan.
same one. That one. R.I.P. to that one.
R.I.P. to that one.
Yeah.
This was our Toyota, which we still have to this day. And so we drove over 3 weeks. The girls were 1.5 years old. And we had no agenda. I think we had about maybe a 3-hour driving time a day because of the girls and how much they could handle. And it was hard because most things were closed with COVID. I always say it was the best experience I never want to do again. The picture that I sent you, we took at Yellowstone National Park. Behind us is Old Faithful. You just can't see any of it because of the chaos in the photo. But
the greatest photo ever.
So, we inched our way back east over about 3.5 weeks, and we came back and we ended up, we lived with my mom here in 44, my childhood home, and like I said, I pretty much stopped almost everything, and we took care of her for a long time, and throughout the drive cross country, we were looking at different places to possibly live. We were eyeing up, North Carolina was probably our highest target at the time, and we always kind of knew. We wanted land. We always talked about possibly having a farm. Outside of music, my other big passion is cannabis and psychedelics. I think they're both. I'm a huge proponent of both when it comes to not only just mental health, but just really dealing with depression and anxiety. And so talking about having a farm and possibly going from California, where I kind of had a foothold in that industry, to looking at Pennsylvania and going, well, they're not quite there yet, but can I be at the forefront of possibly this new industry as it takes hold? And so my husband, Arx, he stumbled upon this farm one day. We used to take the girls for drives every single day because of COVID. There was really nowhere else to take them to, and so he just drove by this place for sale and came to me and said, I want to take you to this place. And I ended up kind of falling in love with the property and the house, and we made an offer.
So he found it.
He found it.
He found it.
Yep. And,
That's awesome.
We put an offer in. We actually moved in. We're coming up July 12th. Will be a year that we've been at the property.
How big is the farm?
63 acres.
So from, what was it, 790
square foot house
90 to 63 acres.
To 63 acres.
A little bit of a change.
Just a tad change.
A little more property to take care of.
A little bit. Just a little bit. But, it's breathtaking. The girls love it. The dogs love it. I'm still indifferent. It's a lot to maintain, a lot to handle. But, I've got a vision for, where we want to take this and what we want to do with it and really hopefully make it a really, really cool spot for people in northeastern PA.
Awesome. So also, and I know you mentioned it like a little bit, but let's kind of circle back to it. So Showcase Daily.
Yep.
So Showcase Daily, you're working on this probably kind of simultaneously, right? Yep. So all right. So what is Showcase Daily?
Sure. So I'll back up and say I have a love-hate relationship with the music industry, having been in it for so long. I love the creativity. I love the tenacity. I love the people that are involved. But I hated the bureaucracy. I hated a lot of the nepotism. I hated the art. I'm using the word hate too much, but I just liked the way artists are treated and the monetization model behind it, and just the monetization of music in general. And so, I think having managed artists was a big piece of this too. Is like I wanted to create a platform that was kind of going against the grain. Taking another step back, like most of my jobs at my careers, like I talked about with Beats especially, was like to kind of grow these music catalogs. They want to be able to market that they have 30 million tracks, 40 million tracks. Apple's now touting 75 million tracks on their platform, and Spotify's now integrating podcasts into their platform. And I think it's all good and well, but I feel like it's creating a very complex user experience for most people. It's a very daunting experience, and I really want to create a very intimate platform that really recreates that feeling of you watching your favorite artist perform on stage. For me, my favorite venue ever is Hotel Cafe out in Los Angeles. It's an iconic venue. It's a very, very small music venue with two small rooms. I saw some amazing, some of my artists perform there. It was my second home for a long time. And there was this feeling of you just watching an artist perform, and like you can hear a pin drop because people are just enthused with these artists. And I wanted to recreate a platform like that. And also, I really stayed in tune with how listening behaviors have changed over time with, and just people are just inundated with content. So Showcase Daily, basically what we do is we introduce one new artist, one new track every single day through our platform. It took me, I spent a year just designing the brand itself, along with just the whole UI and UX, the whole design of the platform, the experience, the flow. I'm just kind of creating something very simple. One of my taglines is "Beauty's in the simplicity," because it is a simple platform. I'm not trying to tout quantity. I'm really trying to promote quality music. And so it's a platform for emerging artists. We're about to launch our MVP in the next 2 months. I've been in development mode for over 6 now, and been working very hard. I've got a solid team behind me now with advisors and also people actually working full time on this. It's a passion project of mine. I really feel like the industry is ripe for disruption in a lot of ways, and I think you're starting to see it when it comes to the way artists are being monetized, but also just curation in general. I think a lot of these services are going towards AI and algorithms, et cetera. Well, through Showcase Daily, I'm kind of trying to merge like technology with an editorial component, but also really kind of taking a spin back to the old school days of radio. And I've got about a 5-year roadmap of where I want to take this to when it comes to, alongside my showcases within the app of creating live experiences and virtual experiences through our platform, and really kind of bring fans into the conversations at a much earlier pace, empowering them to help us find the next artist. We're creating reward systems and tools to allow anybody to help us find that next artist. My goal is to have boots on the ground across the country and on college campuses, constantly scouting for that next talent. And hopefully we would be their first stop of promotion. And again, with my team and my passion for mentorship, Showcase Daily and the mobile app that we've built, it's kind of an entry point. It's an entry point to many other artist services that we can provide. And again, back to my passion for mentorship, like holding their hand through the process, making introductions, but kind of creating these gateways, these showcases through the platform that is kind of more on trend. I'm a dad of 2 twin girls. You're a father now. Like, I don't have time to actively sift through 40, 50 tracks to like Spotify's Discover Weekly or something like that. But if I have, 5 minutes a day that I could open up an app and actively listen to a new artist and read about that new artist and share it or love it or engage with it, part of the platform, I'm not trying to compete with Spotify. I'm not trying to compete with Apple. I'm actually complementing all of these services. If an artist resonates with you and you want to, deeper integrate with their catalog, we deep link out to all the music platforms out there. So if you have Spotify on your phone and you click the Spotify button, it's going to take you right to the artist page where you can further engage with that artist. But it's been a lot years just kind of designing simplicity, which doesn't sound right, but there's a thing called scope creep. If you've ever heard of scope creep before, but it's a developer nomenclature where it's more feature sets, more iterations. You have to stop somewhere and just have a core product and try to like really try to negate any other features from being built, at least for the foreseeable future. And so there's a lot I want to do, but I really had to stay focused on just defining what my core MVP and product was, and I think we nailed it. It's a beautiful app that I really am proud of and I stand behind.
I've seen it, by the way.
Okay.
I've seen the demo. You showed me. You gave me some little behind the scenes demos and everything. So it's cool. And it's exactly like you said. It's simple.
Yep.
But it's sleek and it's
I think
easy.
It's sleek. We just won there's an organization called TechBridge, which is a nonprofit that fosters innovation in northeastern PA, and we just won the non-collegiate division for our business plan and pitch competition.
Yeah, congrats on that, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very proud of that, and we've come a long way. A lot of starts and stops due to personal reasons and things like that, but this is just something I feel like I was tired of working for other people and building other people's passions. Like, I have to take my shot. And I feel like this is my biggest thing I've ever built. That's for myself. So it's a lot of sleepless nights. I don't stop. I'm up at 4 in the morning, 4:30, 5 in the morning, just opening my laptop. It's not healthy. But at the same time, like, it's just bringing so much creativity out of me. And I just love what's coming to light. Yeah.
So like for the artist, like what is it? How will it most benefit the artists themselves?
Yeah, it's a different experience, and Showcase Daily might not be for everybody initially. It's really for those music enthusiasts who are always seeking new music. And so, for me, number one, they've got a dedicated team that is just extremely passionate. This is what we do every day. We live and breathe it. We're constantly like searching for the next artist, sending tracks back and forth. Opening doors for whether it's helping to get signed for sync or for publishing or for a record deal, whatever it may be. Like, that's what we love to do. So if we can kind of provide a gateway for them to do so, my goal is with Showcase is to be that brand. There's really no global brand that's really synonymous with music discovery that has its own platform that lives and breathes it. Yeah, yes, discovery is a component of multiple services, but like, I want to be that brand that this is our us to our core. And so like for artists, for example, like, we're doing it because we believe in them. So like, we're not just showcasing anybody. It's really because we do believe in their mission. We believe in their craft. And whatever we can kind of do to open doors and kind of get in front of the right people. Everything we've done within the app, again, is to promote a very active listening experience on how you're on a showcase. And if you're on one particular showcase, like, that's what you got to listen to. If you swipe to another one, you're listening to the next one. I didn't want to create a passive experience. And so I kind of wanted to get a little bit deeper than just music. Like, I wanted you to understand the person behind it. And then, so that's why we have, additional pictures and, bios and just additional content that we're going to continue to add on. But again, it's going back to really kind of, and then also monetize. So our version 2 of this is creating a monetization vehicle. So it's going to allow any fan to be able to tip the artist directly through our platform. And hopefully, again, going back to the industry being a bit antiquated, is really kind of letting artists be monetize their craft, and be compensated appropriately. I feel like the industry really needs disruption in a lot of ways, and there's other platforms that are trying to do it. So my goal, through the platform, is to hopefully put myself at that table and in those conversations to really change it. It needs to be changed. I'm tired of watching art become commoditized over time.
Yeah. Sorry. So when is it launching?
So I'm hopefully locking down the MVP by next week. We had a couple hiccups along the way the last few weeks, but I'm hoping to lock down that the next week, 2 weeks at the most. And then I'm going to roll out a small alpha to some friends and family, a beta to some industry folks, and then a public release by the end of the summer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Am I on that list?
I don't know. I'll have to think about that.
see if you know anyone that could get me.
Absolutely. You're on it. You're 100%.
Cool. Well, no, man, this is really this is awesome. I mean,
I'm happy you had me on.
Yeah.
I'm honored.
You have a hell of a story.
I think so. I don't
No,
know.
you do. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, in a good way. I knew a little bit about your story prior to having you on, but not as much as I did till today. And it's absolutely incredible, man. I mean,
it's been a fun ride. I guess I could say that. I probably got stories for days, but I don't know any different. I just knew, like, I'm hungry, and I knew what I wanted, and I went after it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. All right. So how can our listeners, like, once it does launch, once Showcase Daily does come out, like, how can, like, the general public, how can people find it? How can artists become part of the platform? What do people need to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, right now we're building out our version 1 of our website. There's a landing page now, but if you go to showcasedaily.com, there is a link there where you can contact us right now. But that new website, we're fully designing our V1. That should be up hopefully within the next 4 to 6 weeks. You can always email me. Anybody who wants to get on our list for beta testers or even alpha testers, you can send me an email at dave@showcasedaily.com. We have all of our social media handles, even though we haven't turned them on yet. We have the handle at Showcase Daily across every social media platform. And any artist that wants to get on board, feel free to drop me a line, send me your link to your music. We're constantly we've got a massive list of artists that we're targeting right now, and I'm on MySpace. Are you still on MySpace?
I think mine might be out there somewhere. I don't know.
Unfortunately, I'm not on any social media. I'm on LinkedIn if you want to connect me on LinkedIn, but I'm not on anything else. But I'm pretty easy to find. And like I said, dave@showcasedaily.com. I'd love to, I'm up to chat with anybody.
Yeah. So yeah, we can go hang out with Tom from MySpace.
Perfect. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up for Tom.
He's the best.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, well, dude, this is awesome. I appreciate it again. Like, this 100%. Is just so cool. I mean, I appreciate you coming in and sharing your experiences, and I wish you the best of luck with the app, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going.
Yeah, I kudos to you for what you're doing.
You've been following the show for a while.
I have been following the show for a while, and
so thank you.
Of course, I love what you're doing. I love how you're bringing light to the entrepreneurs in this area. People like you are one of the reasons that I want to be back here. I want to help bring more light to the valley, and I feel like there's so many talented people in this area, and I think that a change is coming to northeastern PA in a lot of ways. There's a lot of people kind of wanting to make a difference here, and if we can, I'm a big believer in strength in numbers. So if we can all kind of come together, I think we really make something great in this area.
100%, and welcome back.
Thanks, man. It's good to be back.
Yeah.
I missed this pizza. So much good pizza.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you missed out for a long time.
I did miss out for a long time. There's nothing good out there in LA, so
can't imagine.
No.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be back.
Happy to be back eating some pizza.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, hey, it was great catching up, and like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing where the app is going to take you, man.
100%. Couple weeks.
All right.
Almost there.
Nice. Dave Yeager on the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door Studio. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Bill.
If you want to see more On the Stacks content, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/onthestackspodcast, or search the hashtag OnTheStacks on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on The Stacks.